Hi, I'm Mina.
And I'm Yules.
Thanks for tuning in to Artificially Informed.
Welcome back to the deep dive. It is Tuesday, January 20, 2026. And wow, looking at the stack of material we have today.
It is a mountain. It feels like a collision of two completely different realities.
That is the perfect way to put it. It's like the universe is putting on this incredible, beautiful show up there.
A truly celestial wonder. We have the entire northern hemisphere, or a lot of it, looking up tonight.
And then you look down here on Earth.
And the terrestrial tension is, it's so thick you could cut it with a knife.
It's a total split screen. I was reading that tonight. If you're in some really unusual places, Alabama, Northern California, large parts of the UK, you might get to see the Northern Lights.
An incredible sight.
But while you're looking up at that, diplomatic cables are, well, they're practically melting down over Greenland, of all places, Greenland.
We've got a trade war brewing, a so-called Board of Peace that is causing absolutely zero peace.
In fact, it's causing the opposite. More friction than harmony, for sure.
And the markets are just taking a nosedive because of it all. So that's our mission today. We have to navigate this massive stack of information. It ranges from astrophysics and some pretty humbling ancient biology.
Oh, we have to get to the scavenging humans.
We do. And then we have to pivot and unpack some really high-stakes geopolitical poker.
So buckle up. We're going to cover this huge solar storm that's hitting Earth literally right now.
We're going to look at the James Webb Space Telescope's latest pictures, one of which looks suspiciously like the Eye of Sauron.
It really does. And we are going to completely rethink human evolution. Spoiler alert, you might not be descended from the mighty hunters you thought you were.
And we absolutely have to talk about Veronica.
We must talk about Veronica the cow, but of course there's the heavy stuff too. The entire Greenland saga, the AI funding boom that happened in 2025, and some really tragic infrastructure failures in Spain and the U.S.
I think we should start with this guy, though.
Agreed.
Let's get a little cosmic perspective before we dive into tariffs and geopolitics.
I think that's a great idea. So right now, as we're talking, Earth is being hit by a pretty massive solar storm. Reports from places like space.com, the Washington Post, they're all classifying this as a G4, a severe geomagnetic storm.
That's right.
So for those of us who aren't, astrophysicists, what does a G4 actually mean for us down here on the ground?
A G4 is serious business. It's the second highest level on the scale that NOAA, that's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, uses.
Okay, so it's a big one.
It's a big one. And this particular storm was triggered by something called a CME, a coronal mass ejection.
Right.
It erupted from the sun a couple of days ago. And the best way to think about it is, imagine the sun just sort of burping out 1 billion tons of superheated plasma.
1 billion tons.
Billion tons, along with its own magnetic field. And it's hurling it straight at us at millions of miles per hour.
And that payload of plasma has officially arrived.
It has. And when that magnetic field from the sun slams into Earth's own protective magnetic field, our magnetosphere, it causes our field to oscillate. It vibrates.
Okay.
One researcher quoted in the BBC article described it as the Earth ringing like a bell.
I like that. So our magnetic shield is literally ringing.
And that vibration dumps a colossal amount of energy into our upper atmosphere.
Which is what gives us the light show.
That's the one. The oxygen and nitrogen atoms up there, they get excited by all this new energy, and to calm down, they release photons. And that's the glow we see.
The aurora.
Exactly. Now, normally that happens way up at the poles. But with a storm this strong, the whole auroral oval gets pushed way, way south.
Which is why people in North Carolina and Alabama might see it.
That's why. We're getting reports of pink and green hues being spotted all across the United Kingdom. Visually, it's just magic.
It sounds beautiful, but there's always a but. There's a flip side to a G4, isn't there? It's not just pretty lights to post on social media.
No, unfortunately not. When the magnetosphere rings like that, it can induce electrical currents in long conductors on the ground.
Like what? Power lines?
Exactly. Power grids, pipelines, long railway lines. It can trip safety breakers. It can cause transformers to overheat. And in a worst-case scenario, it can lead to blackouts if the grid operators aren't prepared.
So this could actually disrupt things.
It can. It also messes with high-frequency radio communications, which is bad for aviation and shipping. And it can degrade GPS accuracy. So if your map app is acting a little funny today,
Belly the sun.
blame the sun.
So beautiful, but also potentially disruptive. It's a stark reminder that we're just sitting on this rock that's floating next to a very, very volatile star.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of volatile stars, or I guess dying stars, the James Webb Space Telescope, the JWST, has been incredibly busy.
It really has. NASA, that's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, just released these unbelievable new high-resolution images of the Helix Nebula. It's about 650 light years away. And if you are a Lord of the Rings fan...
Oh, I've seen the pictures. It's uncanny.
Right. They're calling it the Eye of Sauron.
And you can see why. It looks exactly like a giant unblinking eye just staring at us from the depths of space.
It really does. But scientifically, what you're actually looking at is a dying star. A star a lot like our own sun.
At the end of its life.
At the end of its life. It's shed its outer layers of gas, and Webb has captured these incredible details. You can see these things called cometary knots, and you can see complex molecules forming in all that debris.
So it's a stellar graveyard.
It is, but it's also a kind of nursery. It's in those clouds of debris that the chemicals that might, one day form new planets and maybe even life get created.
That is both incredibly cool and slightly terrifying to look at.
It is a bit unsettling.
But there was another discovery in the stack that I found even more unsettling, I think. This wobbling black hole in a galaxy called VV340a.
Ah, yes. This is a fascinating piece of cosmic detective work. So, normally, when a supermassive black hole is actively feeding on gas and dust, it shoots out these enormous jets of energy from its poles, perpendicular to the disk of materials swirling into it.
Okay, like a standard death ray.
Right, a very focused, very powerful laser beam shooting out into deep space.
Yeah.
But in this particular galaxy, astronomers noticed something weird. The jet isn't shooting straight.
It's wobbling.
It's precessing. The best analogy is a spinning top that's starting to lose speed, and it begins to wobble around its axis.
I see.
Because the black hole itself is wobbling, that incredibly powerful jet isn't just shooting out into the void, it's spraying energy all over the host galaxy.
Like a loose fire hose.
Precisely like a loose fire hose, a cosmic one.
Yeah.
And the consequence of that is, it's devastating for the galaxy itself.
How so?
That jet is acting like a giant leaf blower. It is stripping away the cold gas, the raw material that the galaxy needs to form new stars.
It's blowing away the star fuel.
It's blowing away about 20 solar masses worth of gas every single year. 20 times the mass of our sun every year.
So the black hole is effectively sterilizing its own galaxy.
It is killing the galaxy's ability to be reborn. It's a cosmic contraceptive, if you will.
Wow.
It's creating what astronomers call a red and dead galaxy. It'll be full of old red stars, but no new bright blue stars can ever ignite again.
Space is just so violent. And to add to that, we also have a note here about a reborn black hole.
Yes, just to add to the chaos.
Yeah.
Astronomers found a black hole that had been dormant, completely quiet, for about 100 million years.
And it just woke up.
It suddenly woke up and erupted, shooting out a jet that stretches for 1 million light years.
1 million light years. That's hard to even comprehend.
They're calling it a cosmic volcano. It just goes to show you that on these cosmic timescales, nothing is ever truly quiet. Something can be dormant for 100 million years and then just roar back to life.
Sobering. And speaking of hot gas, Webb also took a look at an exoplanet, WASP-121b.
Or Tylos.
Yes.
And if you're looking for a vacation spot, this isn't it.
I'm guessing it's not a paradise.
It's an ultra-hot gas giant, orbiting incredibly close to its star. Webb detected 2 colossal tails of helium gas trailing off it, being blasted away by the star's radiation.
So it's leaking its atmosphere into space.
It's hemorrhaging its atmosphere. In fact, it's the first time we've ever detected a stratosphere on an exoplanet, a layer where the temperature actually rises as you go up in altitude.
Like we have on Earth.
Similar, but for very different reasons. The main takeaway here, though, is that this planet is rapidly evaporating. We're watching a world die in real time.
Okay, before we leave space, which is apparently a terrifying place,
It can be.
we have to touch on Artemis II. It feels like we've been talking about going back to the moon forever, but this feels different. The hardware is actually out there now.
It is real. This is not a simulation. As of January 17th, the massive SLS, that's the Space Launch System rocket, and the Orion spacecraft on top of it, are sitting on Launch Pad 39B at Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
The historic pad.
The very same. We are looking at a launch no earlier than February 6th. This is happening.
And this is the big one. This is the crewed mission.
This is the crewed mission. 4 astronauts, including Christina Koch and Victor Glover.
First woman, first person of color to go to the moon.
That's right. And I want to highlight a really interesting detail about the preparations. A woman named Jacqueline Kagi from NASA is leading the EVA prep.
EVA is the
It's
spacewalk?
extravehicular activity, yes, the spacewalk. And she's been really vocal about the new spacesuit designs. This is a huge deal.
Why is that?
Because for decades, spacesuits were basically designed around the average male body frame from the 1960s. They were clunky, and they didn't fit a lot of astronauts well, particularly women.
Right. There were stories about that.
The new suits are engineered to be modular and inclusive. They can be adjusted to fit a much wider range of body types. It's a fundamental shift in engineering philosophy.
So it's not just fit the man anymore, it's fit the astronaut, whoever they are.
Exactly. It's about making space accessible to everyone who is qualified. And while we're all, rightly excited about Artemis, we really shouldn't sleep on what's happening in the East.
You're talking about China.
I am. According to some recent reports, China's commercial space sector had 50 launches in 2025.
50 in 1 year.
And that was 54% of their total launches.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first time, the commercial side is out-launching the state-run side.
So it's not just SpaceX here. They have a booming private industry.
A booming private industry. The valuation of their commercial space sector is now estimated to be somewhere between $350 and $420 billion.
So the new space race isn't just government versus government. It's an entire commercial ecosystem race, too.
That's the new reality. Oh, and quickly, just to bust a myth that's been flying around social media this week.
Go on.
NASA did not find aliens on that super-Earth exoplanet.
I knew it was too good to be true. I saw the headlines. Strange signals.
The strange signals that people were tweeting about were just standard transit noise in the data. It's the kind of statistical fluctuation you expect to see.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry to disappoint everyone.
Fine. No aliens. Yet. Let's bring it back down to Earth then. And I want to talk about us, humans, or rather our ancestors, because there's a story here from Science Daily that feels like a direct attack on our collective ego.
It really is. We love that narrative, don't we? Man the hunter.
Of course. The brave, clever, early humans working together, taking down woolly mammoths with spears, dominating the food chain. It's the classic caveman image.
But this new research says, well, maybe not so much.
Not so much. It suggests that for a very long stretch of our evolution, we were primarily scavengers.
Not hunters.
Not hunters. The theory argues that our main survival strategy wasn't to go out and kill big game. It was to wait for, say, the lions to finish eating their kill.
And then run in afterwards.
And then run in to crack open the leftover bones to get at the marrow inside.
So we were the cleanup crew. We were the roadkill connoisseurs of the Serengeti.
Essentially. We were opportunistic survivors, not dominant predators. And the argument is that this scavenging phase is actually what drove our evolution.
Oh, so?
It's selected for cooperation. You need a team to scare off hyenas. And it's selected for tool use. You need sharp rocks to get at the marrow and butcher the scraps. It wasn't about the aggression needed for hunting.
It shifts the whole narrative from dominance to, well, scrapiness.
And adaptability. We survived because we were clever and willing to eat what was left behind.
I feel like that explains a lot about modern human behavior, actually.
It really does. And speaking of clever behavior and tool use, let's talk about Veronica.
Veronica the cow. It's my favorite story of the week.
It's fantastic. This story, I think it was in The Guardian, reports that a cow named Veronica was observed on a farm using a rake to scratch an itch on her back.
It sounds funny, and the pictures are great,
Yeah.
but scientifically this is really significant.
Why is that?
Spontaneous tool use in cattle is incredibly rare. We associate complex tool use with primates, with crows, some octopuses maybe, but a cow.
She saw a tool, she had a problem, an itch, and she figured out how to use the tool to solve the problem.
That is the definition of problem-solving cognition. It completely challenges our perception of livestock as just, dumb animals.
If a cow can conceptualize how a rake works, what else are we underestimating about their internal lives, their intelligence?
It's a very good question. And staying on biology, there are some absolutely massive medical breakthroughs in the stack today.
Huge. Let's start with cancer therapy. Scientists have successfully cultivated helper T cells from stem cells.
Okay, so break that down for us. Why is that such a big deal?
Right now, one of the most powerful forms of immunotherapy, CRT therapy, requires taking a patient's own T cells out of their body.
Okay.
Then you have to genetically engineer them in a lab to recognize and attack the cancer, grow millions of them, and then infuse them back into the patient.
And that takes time.
And money.
A lot of time and a lot of money. It's incredibly expensive, and sometimes the patient is just too sick to wait for weeks while their cells are being prepared. It's a major logistical bottleneck. I see. So what's the breakthrough?
If you can grow these T cells from stem cells, you can create a universal off-the-shelf product. You could have banks of these cancer-fighting cells ready to go immediately.
So no more waiting.
No more waiting. You could mass produce a supply that's ready for any patient who needs it. It completely solves the supply chain issue for cancer treatment.
That could save thousands of lives just by cutting down the wait time. Incredible. And there's news on Parkinson's disease, too.
Yes. Another big one. Researchers have identified a hidden protein interaction that seems to compromise the energy systems inside brain cells.
The mitochondria.
Exactly. The powerhouses of the cell. This gives drug developers a brand new target. Instead of just treating the symptoms, the tremors, this could offer a way to actually stop the disease mechanism itself.
So stopping the disease, not just managing it.
That's the hope. A genuine way to halt its progression.
And then there's 3D bioprinting. I feel like we hear about this every year, but this update seems different.
It is. This isn't just printing simple tissues anymore. They've successfully 3D printed liver tissue that actually mimics the complex hexagonal structure of a natural liver.
The little lobules and everything?
Exactly. The architecture is right. And the experts involved are now saying we could be looking at replacing the need for organ transplants with printed organs within a decade.
A decade. That is,
Right.
that is wildly fast. To think that in 10 years there might not be an organ wait list.
It would fundamentally revolutionize medicine, just completely change the game.
Wow.
And one final health note before we move on to tech.
Yeah.
A new large-scale study has confirmed there is no link between taking acetaminophen, that's Tylenol, during pregnancy, and the development of autism or ADHD in children.
Ah, that's important.
It is. This was a claim that President Trump had amplified a while back, and it caused a huge amount of anxiety for expectant mothers.
Of course.
But the science on this now seems to be very clear. It's safe.
Good to have that cleared up. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's talk tech. Because if you thought 2025 was the year of AI,
It kind of felt like it.
well, 2026 is basically saying, hold my beer. The numbers are just staggering.
Slate them on me.
In 2025, U.S.-based AI startups raised over $100 billion in venture capital.
$100 billion.
And get this, that represented nearly half, 49% of all global startup funding.
Wow. So half of every dollar invested in a startup on the planet went to AI.
That's the level of concentration we're talking about. It's a tidal wave of capital. You have companies like Anthropic raising $13 billion alone. Perplexity AI is now valued at $20 billion.
It's a gold rush.
It is. But the specific trend that really caught my eye in the report was a new term, vibe coding.
Vibe coding. Please explain this to me. Are we coding with good vibes now? Is that how it works?
In a way, yes. It's a term that's linked to an Indian startup called Emergent, which just raised $70 million.
Okay.
And the idea is that you don't need to know syntax anymore. You don't have to learn Python or C++ or any of that. You code by intent.
So I just tell the AI what I want the program to do in plain English.
You tell the AI the vibe, the outcome you want, the behavior you're looking for, the feeling of the app. And the AI handles all the complex logic and syntax in the background.
So I could just say, make me an app that feels like a cozy, rainy day coffee shop, but it also trades cryptocurrency.
Precisely. That is vibe coding. It completely abstracts the complexity away. It's the democratization of software creation.
Or if you're a software engineer, it might look like the end of your career.
It could be. It's a massive shift. But of course, all that software needs powerful hardware to run on. And the hardware wars are getting really interesting.
You mean Elon Musk coming for NVIDIA?
He is. Musk announced that Tesla is finalizing its new AI-5 self-driving chips and that they're already starting work on AI-6.
So he's trying to build his own NVIDIA, basically.
He's trying to bring the entire stack in-house. He doesn't want to be dependent on NVIDIA's supply chain or, more importantly, their pricing. He wants to control his own destiny.
And what's Apple's play in all this?
Apple is doing what Apple does. They're chasing the ultra-high end of the market. Citi Research is predicting that they will ship millions of $2,000 foldable iPhones this year.
$2,000 for a phone that folds.
It's the new status symbol. But there is a dark side to this tech boom. We have to talk about quantum computing for a second.
Okay.
Penn State just released some research that warns that current quantum computers, these incredible machines that are supposed to be the next great leap forward in processing power.
The ones that are supposed to break all our current encryption.
Exactly. The irony is the research shows the quantum computers themselves have serious security flaws.
Wait. You're telling me the Master P is easy to steal? The thing that's supposed to break the locks is itself unlocked?
That's the concern, yes. That they are vulnerable to exploitation by conventional hackers, which is a very comforting thought.
Terrific. And just quickly on the regulatory front, Tap Mobile, this was supposed to be the big alternative app store in the European Union, right? Breaking Apple's monopoly.
It was, and it's shutting down.
Already? Why?
They put out a statement citing Apple's regulations and fees under the new EU rules. They basically said it's impossible for a third-party store to be profitable.
So even with a new law designed to create competition, the giants are just too powerful.
It shows you just how entrenched they are. It's incredibly hard to dislodge them.
Okay, let's pivot. We have to get to the story that is dominating the actual news cycle today, the Greenland saga.
This is the central political conflict of the day, and it's messy.
It's beyond messy. If you had told me 5 years ago that we would be on the brink of a major trade war over Greenland, I would have assumed it was a sketch comedy bit.
And yet, here we are.
Here we are. President Trump is renewing his push very aggressively to purchase or annex Greenland from Denmark. Let's start with the why. Why Greenland? Why now?
It seems to be a mix of genuine strategic thinking and, well, personal ego.
Okay, what's the strategic part?
Strategically, Greenland is crucial in the 21st century. It has enormous untapped reserves of rare earth minerals, which are vital for all our technology. And more importantly, its location. As the Arctic ice melts, new shipping lanes are opening up. It's a key strategic position to counter Russia and China's growing presence in the Arctic. From a purely realpolitik perspective, you can see the logic.
But you said there's a personal angle, too.
There is. Sources are reporting that in a private message to Norway's leader, Trump explicitly linked his desire for Greenland to his grievance over not winning the Nobel Peace Prize.
Hey, you're not serious. He thinks buying Greenland gets him a Nobel Prize.
Or perhaps he feels snubbed by the Scandinavian countries that award the prize. And this is a way of exerting raw power to force their respect. It seems to be transactional diplomacy taken to a very personal, very psychological extreme.
And the fallout from this push is very, very real. He has announced 10% tariffs on 8 European NATO countries that oppose the move.
10%. That is a massive economic weapon to use against your closest military allies.
How did the markets react?
Not well. Dow Jones futures dropped nearly 700 points on the news. The price of gold and silver surged as investors fled to so-called safe havens. This isn't just rhetoric anymore. It's hitting the global economy hard.
And the EU isn't just taking it.
Not at all. Kaja Kallas, who is the EU's foreign policy chief, came out swinging. Her direct quote was that Europe won't be blackmailed.
Strong words.
And they have a tool to back it up. They're talking about using something called the anti-coercion instrument.
That sounds ominous. What is that?
You can think of it as a trade bazooka. It's a legal mechanism the EU created specifically for situations like this. It allows them to bypass their usual slow processes and slap massive counter tariffs on a country that's using economic pressure for political gain.
So they're threatening to fire back.
They're threatening tariffs on $93 billion worth of U.S. goods.
So we are staring down the barrel of a full-blown U.S.-EU trade war between allies.
And it's getting worse. The conflict is now bleeding over into intelligence and security.
What do you mean?
There are multiple reports that NATO officials, and specifically the UK, are now withholding certain types of intelligence from the United States.
Withholding intel. Why?
They fear it will be weaponized, that the U.S. administration will use the intelligence as leverage to push this Greenland deal through.
That is incredibly dangerous. If allies aren't sharing intelligence, that leaves gaps that our adversaries can and will exploit.
It gets even more paranoid. Denmark's intelligence agency, the FE, has now banned all police and government officials from using Bluetooth devices or even AirPods in their offices.
They're afraid of being spied on.
They're terrified of spying amidst all this tension. So no AirPods in Copenhagen because of Donald Trump's real estate ambitions.
That's a sentence I never thought I'd hear. And amid all of this chaos, Trump has proposed a board of peace.
The name itself is something else.
It is. What is this board?
It's a U.S.-led initiative. He's invited Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin has confirmed they are in talks with a U.S. delegation at Davos.
Putin is on the board of peace.
Okay. Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu is on board. He supports it. But France's President Macron declined the invitation.
And I'm guessing Trump didn't take that well.
He did not. He publicly mocked Macron on social media and immediately threatened new tariffs, specifically on French wine and champagne.
This just feels like foreign policy by personal retaliation.
And to add another layer, Trump then leaked a private message he'd received from NATO's chief, Mark Rutte, where Rutte was praising some of Trump's diplomatic efforts.
To what end? Why leak that?
Presumably to show that, despite Macron's snub, he still has support within the NATO leadership to undermine the appearance of a united European front against him.
It's a chaotic, high-stakes game. What's the wider global reaction?
The Council of Europe's head, Alain Berset, warned that any attempt at annexation completely undermines the entire post-World War II legal order.
Strong statement.
And even Russia's foreign minister, Lavrov, weighed in.
What did he have to say?
He called the U.S. approach a dangerous example of might makes right, which, has a certain irony coming from him.
A deep irony.
But he was also quick to clarify that Russia has absolutely no claim on Greenland. It's a complete free-for-all, diplomatically.
And speaking of chaotic free-for-alls, let's look at the other major global conflicts because the world hasn't stopped turning. The situation in Israel and Gaza seems to be escalating again.
It is. Israeli forces have demolished the main headquarters of UNRWA in East Jerusalem.
UNRWA is the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, the main UN body for Palestinian refugees.
Yes. It is the lifeline for millions of Palestinians. The UN is calling the demolition an unprecedented attack on a humanitarian organization.
It's a huge symbolic and operational blow.
Absolutely. And at the same time, there are legal moves happening elsewhere. A group of UK lawyers has filed an official request for sanctions to be placed against Prime Minister Netanyahu personally for incitement to violence.
So while the U.S. is pushing its board of peace with certain leaders, some of our allies are trying to hold those same leaders legally accountable.
The divergence between the U.S. and its traditional allies on this is growing wider by the day.
What's the latest on Russia and Ukraine?
It's tense. As we mentioned, a U.S. delegation is meeting with a Russian envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, at Davos, which is interesting timing.
To say the least.
But publicly, Lavrov is still hammering the same points, rejecting all Western narratives of aggression and claiming that it's NATO that is preparing for a conflict with Russia.
And we're seeing some cracks in the European support for Ukraine.
We are. There's a notable fracture in the Czech Republic. The Prime Minister Andrej Babis just came out and said he refuses to sell Czech-made L-159 jets to Ukraine.
But wasn't their president in favor of that?
Yes. President Peter Pavel had supported the idea. So the Prime Minister is now directly contradicting his own head of state, citing his own country's defense needs. It's a sign that European unity on arming Ukraine is starting to crack under the long-term pressure.
It seems like unity is fracturing everywhere we look today.
It does, and the tragedy is that the human cost of these other longer-running conflicts is getting ignored.
You mean places like Yemen and Sudan?
It's exactly. The UN is warning that child mortality is set to rise sharply in Yemen, where 20 million people are facing acute food insecurity.
20 million.
And in Sudan, a new BBC report from the front line shows the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, are closing in on the city of El Fasher. There's a severe hunger crisis unfolding there as well.
And these massive humanitarian crises are just being pushed off the front page by the Greenland drama.
It highlights the disconnect, doesn't it?
Right.
We have these high-level geopolitical spats over an island of ice, while millions of people are literally starving.
And the financial markets are reacting to all of this geopolitical volatility.
They absolutely are.
Let's dig into the economy section. That 700-point drop in the Dow is a direct response to the Greenland tariff threats, isn't it?
100%. The VIX, which is known as the fear gauge, is way up. Markets absolutely hate uncertainty, and the prospect of a trade war between the two largest economic blocs in the world, the U.S. and the EU, is the definition of uncertainty.
It seems like Lavrov picked up on this theme, too.
He did. He gave a speech where he said the global rules of trade are just being thrown out the window, that institutions like the IMF and the World Bank are having their standards abandoned for short-term political leverage.
And while the West is embroiled in this, what's China doing?
China is playing the long game. The city of Shanghai just released its 2035 plan.
So while we're fighting about this week's tariffs, they're looking more than a decade down the road.
Precisely. The plan is to turn Shanghai into a world-class socialist metropolis and a global financial hub. They're focusing on developing offshore finance, integrating AI into every level of the city's management. They are not distracted by the daily noise.
Let's look at some corporate news. I saw a note that Netflix has updated its bid for Warner Bros. Discovery.
Yes, this is a power move. They've shifted to an all-cash offer.
Which means they're confident.
It means they have the liquidity, and they want to end the bidding war and consolidate the streaming market once and for all.
And Meta is making moves too, more layoffs.
Yes, another 1,500 people in their Reality Labs division.
That's their metaverse division, right?
It is, and this signals a major pivot. They are shifting resources away from the metaverse, which has been a huge money sink, and pouring that capital into AI and smart glasses.
So the metaverse is officially out, and vibe coding and AI agents are in.
That seems to be the trend for 2026.
Okay, before we try to synthesize all of this, we have to touch on the human stories in Section 7. There was a terrible, terrible tragedy in Spain.
Yes, just awful news. The worst rail disaster in that country in over a decade. A high-speed train crash in southern Spain. The death toll is currently at 40 people.
Do we have any idea what caused it?
Early reports from investigators suggest they're looking at a broken joint on the railway track, or possibly a significant gap in safety protocols.
It's a horrible reminder of how fragile our critical infrastructure can be. We take these high-speed trains for granted, but one mechanical failure.
And it can be catastrophic. Spain has declared 3 days of national mourning.
And here in the United States, we had a weather-related disaster.
A massive snowstorm in Michigan, near whiteout conditions on a major highway, I-196, led to a 100-vehicle pileup.
Just a complete nightmare scenario for anyone involved.
Absolutely.
On a cultural note, a much sadder one, we lost a true legend this week, Valentino.
Valentino Garavani passed away at 93 years old. He really defined a certain type of timeless elegance.
Valentino red.
That iconic shade of red. He dressed everyone from Jackie Kennedy to Jennifer Lopez. It really does feel like the end of an era in high fashion.
It does. And a weird little football story to cleanse the palate a bit. An unsigned contract from the 1970s was found.
This is great. Apparently, Don Revie, who was a legendary English football manager, had a contract to take over the Everton Football Club that he just never signed.
It was just sitting in a drawer somewhere.
Found in a drawer decades later. And if he had signed it, the entire history of English football in the 70s and 80s could have been completely different. It's a classic sliding doors what-if moment.
I love those little historical oddities.
And finally, archaeologists in Wales found a completely untouched Roman villa.
Where?
Under a public park.
You're kidding? Just sitting there?
Just sitting there, perfectly preserved, a few feet beneath the grass where people walk their dogs every day. A reminder that history is literally right under our feet while we're up here arguing about the sky.
So let's try to wrap our heads around all of this. We've gone from solar storms to scavenging humans to trade wars. What's the thread here?
I think the theme today is the fragility of systems versus the resilience of discovery.
Fragility and discovery. Unpack that.
Think about it. Our diplomatic systems, NATO, our trade agreements, international law, they all seem incredibly fragile right now. They're snapping under the political pressure from this Greenland situation, from the tariffs, from these ongoing wars.
Right, and the train tracks in Spain failed. Our power grid is threatened by a solar storm.
All of these complex systems we rely on are brittle. But then...
And then you have the discovery side.
Exactly. Look at the resilience of the human drive to discover. We are figuring out how to cure cancer with a patient's own immune cells. We are 3D printing liver tissue. We're building a telescope that can see a dying star 650 light years away that looks like the Eye of Sauron.
We're launching Artemis back to the moon.
We're launching people back to the moon.
And cows are using rakes to scratch their backs.
And cows are using rakes. Life and intelligence finds a way to be clever even when our politics is being, well, profoundly difficult.
It connects right back to that idea of the view from space, from the perspective of the Helix Nebula, or even just from low Earth orbit where the Artemis crew is heading. All these borders we're fighting over Greenland, Ukraine, Gaza, they're completely invisible.
They're just lines we've drawn on a map. And yet, as we see with the 700-point Dow drop and the reports of hunger in Yemen, those imaginary lines have devastatingly real consequences for people on the ground.
So here's a thought to leave everyone with today. We are building a world of vibe coding, where we can create complex software without understanding the code. We're building AI that thinks for us. At the same time, we're discovering that animals, like Veronica the cow, are smarter than we ever gave them credit for. So the question is, are we prepared for the profound ethical responsibilities that come with creating new forms of intelligence when we are so clearly struggling to manage our own human intelligence on the geopolitical stage?
That is the question, isn't it? We're building gods in the machine while we are still acting like squabbling children in the sandbox.
Oof, that hits hard.
It should. It's the paradox of our time.
Well, on that slightly sobering note, if you get a chance tonight, go outside, look north, try to catch a glimpse of those pinks and greens of the aurora.
Absolutely.
It's a really good reminder that the universe puts on a spectacular show, regardless of what the Dow Jones did today.
A little bit of perspective is always a good thing.
Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Goodbye, everyone.
For enjoying Artificially Informed.
Hit subscribe and share it with a friend.
From the left, the right, and straight from the algorithm.
Thank you.
That's it for today's Artificially Informed.
Thanks for spending your time with us.
Yeah.
Stay sharp, stay curious. See you next time.